Hey,
Hey,
Sai.
hi. Hey, Sergey.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello.
Glad you could join. I'll go ahead and get started then. So, we're gonna ask a few questions as normally goes in an interview. I've got a few here, and then Sai will have some as well. Um, to get started, looking at your resume, I see that you did work in Wells Fargo
Yes, I did.
recently, which is great. Um, and it seems like you do have a little bit of a of legacy .NET framework experience. So I kind of wanted to get into that just a little bit because we are still supporting and migrating, modernizing some legacy applications around here, which you might be involved in. Um, so
So,
tell me about your
yeah, sure.
your
So,
experience.
excuse me,
Mhm.
do you want me to have camera on, or do you mind if I will turn it off? Or maybe somebody will turn on the camera so to make me more comfortable, so I'm not only one under like in a glass
Oh yeah,
ball kind of thing.
yeah. I'm okay with that. I don't like to use cameras either, so I kind of get it. Yeah, that's fine if you want to turn it off. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just kind of I want to be like a little bit 50-50. I just okay. So
Yep.
yeah, I say not a little bit, but actually a lot of it. I use pretty much I use all .NET framework from and all versions of Visual Studio from first to what is it right now 22, 26 right now. And yeah, obviously I use for so widely popular .NET 4.72. Well, if you're using it, I suggest like immediately upgrade it to 4.8, what is it, point 1.
Hmm.
But I, already for years, I used .NET 6. The latest I was using .NET 8. I mean, I tried my kind of a student project with .NET 9. I think the 10 is the latest one. Um, well, that's it. So yeah, and I kind of feel that you're gonna speak about some upgrade because yeah, there are many projects that require upgrade, especially in the light of Windows 11 coming up everywhere and all the framework getting out of support.
Yeah, that's right. So in that legacy experience, um, does any of it go back to the ASP.NET Web Forms style of UI, or was it all MVC? Because we do have some kind of applications that honestly started out like 25 years ago, and were done in the web forms mode in monolithic structure. Um, have you worked with that at all?
Yes, I did. So
Okay.
so-called web forms or data extension data SPX, I did work with them a lot. Can't say they're my favorite.
Yeah.
Again, let's put it this way: if application is simple, they're actually great. If it's
Hmm.
simple forms, they're great. But was a tendency to complicate them and insert update panel, and and it become a nightmare. So from this
Hmm.
perspective, MVC or Blazor are much nicer. But yeah, I'm very familiar with them. I'm familiar with I'm very good with JavaScript, and again, all of this application most likely will use JavaScript dash jQuery or maybe some other framework. I'm good with that.
Yeah, some of our modernized apps here are based on Angular. Continuing with this legacy talk, though, obviously the more interesting part is modernization of it. Getting it up to date. So when you've done that in the past, maybe talk a bit about what strategies you use. What going from a web forms application, you don't have an obvious direct path forward. Like Microsoft didn't give us any upgrade wizard or anything. So talk a little bit about what architectural decisions, design decisions, whatever that you've made in migrating applications like that.
Okay, well, this is actually a big conversation. First of all, again, I'm not specifically will bet that Microsoft, like you said, there is no upgrade tool. And probably you're right. I actually never saw somebody using upgrade tools for web forms. I know there is upgrade tool for MVC applications.
Hmm. Yep.
And I tried to use it long time in the past, and I didn't get a good result. So mostly strategy is a manual rewrite. And here it's really kind of developers, everybody get together and decide how deep they want to go with the rewrite. Usual approach, because it's never enough time, people, money. Usual approach is to keep old database, maybe with some very updates, like, like sometimes we know, okay, this part of the database is just disaster, and we upgrade, break tables into smaller tables, normalizations, and so on. But usually we keep our database. Very often we keep even if you have some kind of API. Again, if you're speaking about ASPX, I suspect it's no API at all or WCF, and that stuff need to be rewritten because it's very hard to deal with WCF in modern environment. So if we have API, it should be converted to REST API. If we already have it, maybe we have like old Angular application that have API, like Angular.js. Yeah, we keep it. Or maybe create a new version of it, like V2, And yeah, and complete rewrite of UI, using old application like a kind of like a prototype, like a technical spec.
Okay, great. Would you tend to, in mapping those ASPX pages, would you tend to use something like Razor, Angular? I guess there's even Blazor as an option.
Yeah, again, it's like a team should decide what we are using. Modern approach, actually, people use Angular. I use Angular. I use to upgrade older applications like MVC application and old Angular application to a new version of Angular.
Hmm.
There are some developers who are very like Blazor very much, and I say Blazor is very competitive thing. So, and I know Blazor, by the way, so it's good stuff too. So, but modern approach is keep database, REST API, and on front end it will be either Angular or Blazor. I mean, frankly, I see that Microsoft is supporting all stuff, and they kind of upgraded Razor/MVC. So Razor is like a language for HTML, right? We create those loops in HTML, and it's called Razor. So, and now they rename it in Blazor for non-MVC applications. So it's also a Razor basically, and that's very good. It's readable. It's lightweight. So, basically, it should be decision Angular or Blazor or even MVC, because new MVC is pretty good too.
Actually haven't worked with Blazor, and I've heard sort of as it's developed over the years, I hear people are, originally they're saying, oh, you only want it for a very small departmental app, it's not going to scale. And then people say, yeah, it's getting better. Have you worked with it enough to have an opinion on that? Like how big you would go with an app?
Definitely, you can go big. Definitely. No,
Really?
it's serious
Okay.
technology. I wouldn't say it's for small application. I mean, initially even Angular was kind of like, hey, we are doing small SPA application, kind of like one page, like Outlook. And then people started to make like massive application in it, like a whole like Office. Blazor and Angular are capable of big application. I mean, over there will be immediately question of memory, of like we need to think about that. Like some parts should be loaded, unloaded, lazy loaded, that kind of stuff. but it's capable.
Okay. So let's move on to some data access stuff, kind of in the same vein. Um, how do you decide between your various options like EF Core, maybe a library like Dapper, or maybe you got a legacy application with a lot of stored procedures? How do you typically handle that in a legacy application that's you're moving forward with?
Okay, valid question. So basically, I say personally, for me, I would prefer entity framework. I would prefer entity framework. And speaking of Dapper, sometimes people do. By the way, while we are talking, let me just to cover the empty screen. Let me. Oh, I cannot share. Are you able to allow me to share in something? I will just share the screen of the.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah.
I've got to show people and then click you and say make presenter.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you. So just to cover, and maybe we'll. Where is the window? Where is the window? This one. Okay. Do you see it?
Yes.
So
GitHub.
it's a GitHub. I just shared my GitHub. But again, speaking of Dapper, so Dapper definitely more lightweight and very nice alternative to Entity Framework. Again, I noticed that for big applications, there is a tendency, like people started to like add library for Dapper that kind of do like a little mappings on top of it. So basically, essentially, for big application, people started to convert Dapper into kind of like an entity framework. And I don't remember from top of my head Dapper addition. So again, if we have small application, yeah, I definitely vote for Dapper. For big application, I say, hey, we need to use like here on the screen, like SQL Builder. I saw like Dapper Plus. I saw people starting to use it because Dapper is not enough. And another one, when you mention in simple using the storage procedure, I saw in my career many times when entity and framework fail from performance. Overall entity framework, we can guarantee to say that 70% slower. Application will work 70% slower. And sometimes it's becoming a disaster. So still we have to sometimes write storage procedures and call them. And that doesn't matter if we call them through Dapper, through entity framework, because there is like EF, what is it? Data context that execute, right? Storage procedure, we have it. Or we can use the normal SQL connection, create connection, what is ADO, right? Server data, access data object, I forget exact term. It works too. It works too. And actually, I recently saw it. Like somebody called me and say, hey, we have like a terrible situation with deadlocks, and I'm like, you know what, let's just replace it with storage procedure. And it was whole logic on the not on the client, but on the service level, when entity framework was, getting data from the server, processing it, do some calculation, posting it back. And I said, let's put all this stuff in the storage procedure. And they were surprised. They used to client, user clicking the button and waiting for like a minute, which is also not good, right? 1 minute timeout is not usual. Usually standard like 30 seconds. And then it's like immediately they get result back immediately. Like wow, listen, storage procedure, no rocket science. Sometimes we have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're starting with Entity Framework for the convenience and the more elegant code, but then when it gets down to optimization, maybe you got to do it more raw and do the stored proc.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of our legacy apps are coming from a time when organizationally DBAs would tell you, "Oh, you've got to do stored procedures. We don't want dynamic SQL." And they wanted to not give your service account CRUD permissions, but have you do it through stored procs. So we have some stuff where it's like everything's in stored procedures, and then it would sort of be a decision when you rewrite it: do you reuse that infrastructure, or do you decide to move to Entity Framework? And that's always a tough one for me, because it's like, well, are you giving up performance by moving away from the stored procedures? Anyway,
Okay.
that wasn't really a
I
question.
will tell
Go
you
ahead.
more. So basically, I'm like opening my repository. I'm trying to find I'm writing sometimes link examples. So link versus I have when I wrote it, oh my goodness, 2019, it's an old example, or object with link, even older. So basically, a lot of C# programmers and TypeScript programmers, they love link embedded query. They love it. So, and actually that's why people add some, okay, let's take it back. But that's why a lot of people love Entity Framework. I mean, working with link, that getting converted to SQL sometimes funny, but that's why you will see a lot of people voting for Entity Framework and for, using link. Policy about using stored procedure, yes, I saw it. Like, for example, I work at Aetna. It was kind of like unwritten policy that we use a stored procedure as much as we can to, basically to do everything. I mean, I don't think Wells Fargo have it, but I saw a lot of older projects that have a lot of stored procedure, and then was huge. They was huge, and I personally don't think it's that good. They're fast, but supporting them, debugging them could be nightmarish. Versus like link in the code, look at that. Look at that. From, and this is link. From people, cell phones, it's kind of like, I'm writing sometimes demo applications. However, let's admit that this query will work slower than stored procedure. Not much slower, but let's say 20% slower. So I don't know if you see it. Do you want me to increase the font?
Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah, you're good. I'm at home, so I have my big monitor.
Yeah. And I'm actually displaying. Usually, recruiters remove my GitHub from the. I think it's a policy to remove any kind of social links. But I do have like Stack Overflow. I do have GitHub, and use it for educational purposes.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I'm looking back at your. Oh no, you do. It does have your GitHub in here. They're just not active links. But yeah, they actually are down at the bottom. So that's public. I could take a look at that offline.
Yes. Yeah, I have several of them. So GitHub/search Klokov, GitHub/Sam-Klok, because like in some teams they call me Sam because it was too many surges. Yeah, and I have like various. Some utilities, like I hope they're good, and some utilities just for fun, and some for real case scenarios.
So let me move on to another question. Just kind of, if this is tied in with what we were just talking about, if we get down to more of the, well, not necessarily the bare metal, but talking about databases, if you're dealing with performance issue on a project, talk a bit about how you would go about diagnosing it, what tools are available, what your process might be there.
This is, Yeah, this is very difficult question you're asking. That's a whole discussion for for an hour performance. But
Yeah,
basically, there are a couple
I,
ways. It's like
I do mean specifically on the database layer.
yeah. First is troubleshooting, and let's say we troubleshoot and we figure out that it's a database. So it's a database layer. We need to see. Well, obviously, first is deadlocks. I mean, let's say not deadlocks. Let's say some queries working slowly. So we open up that SSMS, SQL Studio, and we will see. Sometimes I just look at the code of the SQL, and I sometimes see some weird join. So if they put like inside of the join, let's say date field equal to string field, which is converted to date, that's already disaster. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
conversion of the type in the join. So I actually see it a lot, surprisingly. Second of all is indexes, and query it's have like a little you can show the execution result in SSMS Studio, and this may show you index scans, table scans, and if you see for like a big query, like a big table scans, like right away, hey, something with indexes, we need to add new index, specific field, or re-index it. That's quite common too. I mean, I already mentioned some weird joins to rewrite it. We need to debug if it's big SQL to create it like separate, execute it line by line, which is not easy to do. That's a SQL troubleshooting. And worst case scenario, we need to change the architecture. We need to break down some table to the several tables. So I saw people reusing one table for various data and kind of putting like another column data type. So several applications writing on the same table, and it's creating deadlocks. And I like right away, hey, we need to break it down on several tables. There is no way around. And variety.
Is that more like performance? Is that more on the insert side you're talking about there?
Yeah, it's more on our side. It's more on insert when a couple applications. Well, in that particular case, as I remember, was also when they read it, they require this. It was committed read, but they didn't put those no logs, and even for reading, it was locking the table, which everybody was using. So it's and also you can see it quite often. People write storage procedure, but they don't think about that it can lock something just for read.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's usually you see this stuff in legacy code, but when application was smaller, when data was smaller, so it didn't cause any problems. But when it grew, when it hit the million records, you started to get problems.
I'm curious how you would what would cause that to happen and how you would see it. Would that be where maybe there's a set transaction isolation level at the top of the proc that isn't okay? And so you're not, well, are you or are you not proposing that you should put like with no lock on all your joins on it, or is that necessary?
I would pretty much propose to put, if you do select statements, we need to put no lock. Pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's again, I afraid to say something against of myself. I would right now I would actually do some research before like strongly advising it, but yeah, there is, like you said, there is also a transaction isolation level. There is like committed, not committed styles in the database that so database could be changed to that. So
yeah,
I need to look at specific example here. Like just from my memory, I'm a little bit kind of don't remember everything, and I'm afraid to tell you something. I'm very
I hear you. I actually asked more out of more out of my personal curiosity than
Mhm.
as an interview question. Because I'm not sure either. I see the with no lock in places, and I've used it
Let me
myself.
see.
But I've also sometimes scratching my head. Is that really the right thing to do? So
Like,
I actually want to give Sai a little bit of time. Actually, one thing before that, this is getting a little more simple, but um, could you talk a little bit about on SQL Server clustered versus non-clustered indexing?
I will tell you in a moment. So, like, for example, you see the select
Mm-hmm.
and join. So, yeah, after the L, I would put in parentheses no lock. I mean, this is,
Mm-hmm.
you see, this doesn't have. Even here, like no lock here, so no lock here after L, and no lock here.
Mm-hmm.
So that will contain two no locks. Okay, cluster index versus non-cluster index. Cluster index basically order table in the so records ordered according to clustered index. So obviously based on that, it could be only one clustered index because you cannot, order reorder, it could be only one. So usually it's a primary key. Actually, in SQL Server, it could be, I think, only primary key could be clustered. In some databases, could be variety. Could be one primary key and just index that clustered, which frankly doesn't make sense. But yeah, people sometimes doing it. So normally I would have clustered index. Um, Quite typical, you see here the phone ID, so table with phones, right? So usually this would be a clustered index, phone ID.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sometimes when we do a search by name, sometimes, do we have a name here somewhere? Number, like phone number. We can do a cluster index on the number, or name. Well, here right away problem if there are people with the same name, right? So we need to think about that too. But so I would say create cluster index on phone ID and just index on the person name.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Okay. Good. Um, trivia question. What do you call a SQL Server table that doesn't have a clustered index?
You got me. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't have to have a clustered index.
Right, it doesn't. It's called a heap, and
Heap.
sometimes people
Oh, I
use
see
them.
it.
Yeah, if they want to just always insert at the end. But yeah, uh, not to get too deep into it, I've run into it before where somebody just forgot to put a clustered index on the primary key, so they end up with none. Then you got issues. You delete data from the table unless you fully lock it. It doesn't reclaim space. Just weird stuff like that. Anyway, I'm
Well,
gonna kind of
I
get
will.
some. Go
It's
ahead.
interesting. I actually deal with that. Reclaiming space. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
for all the version, yeah, you're right. In all the version of SQL Server, we have to, let's say we deleted data, and people thought like we deleted like from hard drive. It's not. Space was still sitting there, kind of. So we will need to run. I actually worked as a DB administrator a long time ago. We have to run shrink table. DBCC shrink was a pro.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's does it automatically. Again, we can set up when it's done automatically. But you're right. Basically, I didn't know that cluster index actually related to the shrinking table. I will look it up. But again, this is already like deep database design, so I may sometimes kind of my knowledge is kind of not always up to date with this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was something I just know because I ran into it where somebody had made that mistake, and the what I read, and this may not even be the case in current SQL Server version, but yeah, you had to get a full table lock for it to reclaim the space on the heap table when it did a delete. If you did a full table lock, then it would do it. But if not, it would just leave it unreclaimed. Yeah.
Thank you for
Anyway,
telling me. Usually, I always use it. I assume it could be some table, like kind of like a dump data storage, like you said, like a heap for some not very important data that we just save it for, I don't know, for kind of like a log. You're right.
Yeah, that's exactly where this was too. It was a log, but then you figure out, oh yeah, we're required now to delete log entries more than 2 years old, and suddenly, okay, I got to delete 100 million records, and kind of ugly. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Sai. He typically asks some more kind of like rapid fire, technical questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not quite as open ended as this, but yeah.
Thank you.
You take it, Sai.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Hey, Sergey.
Yes, hi.
So as Ed was mentioned, like it is kind of straightforward questions that I have some of them to check the areas that you worked on. So coming to that, like what is async and await? Like what is the use of them? Where we use it to in C# programming?
Well, basically when we need to wait for return of the data. Actually not to wait. So we subscribe for the event and do something else. So it's a synchronous call. So typically in the applications, in UI, it's typically used in UI applications, but it could be everywhere, backend. Yeah.
Okay, so what is middleware in ASP.NET Core? And have you ever implemented any custom middleware in your projects?
Well, middleware is like something in the middle. I say some black box in the middle. Usually I would say like some DLL, some library that in the middle. Yes, I did that. It's kind of vague, I guess, answer, but
Okay. So what validation approaches do you prefer in .NET Core?
validation on the UI.
Yep, might be server side or UI. Like what are the validation approaches that you prefer?
Well, all of them. Like, no, first of all,
Yep.
we have data attributes. So, like on the, I don't know what UI you're talking about, but let's say it's some kind of. Usually, right now we have data attributes. That you can put like only alphanumeric, and this will be actually UI validation. But sometimes we need to do like a server validation when validator check if product still exists in the database in the warehouse and stuff like that. So
Okay.
combination.
Yeah. So how do you version APIs in ASP.NET Core? Like what versioning strategies have you used in real-time projects?
Usually, well, you're right. So basically, API is problem with API is that it should be rarely changed, especially if we have let's say several departments or several companies are consuming your API. So you cannot change it whenever you want. So basically APIs stay unchanged forever. And if we issue a new function in API, we create a new version. Usually we add like something like .v2, we add a version. And or create like it's just for method, or create like whole new version of API v2 and again. So basically, additional version. At the
Okay.
moment I don't remember exact syntax, but
Yeah, not an
yeah,
issue.
yeah.
Since you mentioned that you worked on entity framework, like can we call stored procedures in the entity framework?
Yes, we basically context that execute and again I don't remember exact syntax in the moment, but yeah, of course we can.
Okay. So
So
how do you handle the transactions in entity framework? Like can we do any explicitly, can we begin any explicit transactions in entity framework?
Yes, yeah, I believe we can use those also, like begin and end transaction and entity framework. I don't remember exact syntax in it, but
Okay. Okay.
In
Got
the in the context, we will need to like in the context, like in a kind of like in a using statement, create like begin and end, like context that begin transaction and context that commit transaction.
Okay. Okay.
You
Got
know,
it.
again, I know it's possible. I don't remember exact
Yeah.
syntax. I
Yeah.
don't use it that commonly. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So you have a .NET Core Web API and which handles around 100K users, and the response time got suddenly increased from 100 milliseconds to 2 seconds or 3 seconds. Like, how will you identify and fix the issue?
Okay, so when we reach 100K users,
Uh-huh.
API suddenly become much slower, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, how I will troubleshoot it? It's a question, right?
Yes. How you troubleshoot and how you
O-
get it fixed.
Okay, well, first of all, I will ask what time it's happening. Is it specific time of day when, like, let's say in the morning when we have a lot of user in the system, or it's all the time, even
Mm-hmm.
like at night, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But so sometimes basically there are bottlenecks related to, you know, logged in users. But mainly, most likely, I will suspect issue in database, like mentioned before, like indexes or reindexed or fragmentation table. So I will look what I will try to debug and figure out which methods used, all methods causing the delay or just one method. And depends from those methods, I will see it the SQL statements behind of it and which tables are used, indexes are used, deadlocks
Okay.
potentially, you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
2 seconds
Yeah.
probably not deadlocks. That's probably just indexes.
Got it. So how do you make a secure web API? Like, what are the mechanisms that we have and what you guys used in your applications?
There are different. Mainly, I use the token. That's JWT JSON-based token, which should be,
Okay.
you
Have you
know,
ever worked on OAuth 2.0, the recent one?
OS. I didn't work with it. I mean, I saw some like Microsoft examples with it.
Okay.
OpenOS, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or OOS
Got
is
it.
like actually not OpenOS, it's just OS. I forget how it's exactly
Hmm. Hmm.
deciphered.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
I work with Windows
So,
based. There are like web application like Windows based authorization. And not common in
hmm,
real life, but in corporate environment it's happens.
got it. Got it. So, how do you implement efficient server-side pagination for a large data set?
Pagination.
Yeah.
You know, we have yeah, basically behind the scene it's basically SQL statement. So we have SQL that get a new, I forget the index, but it's get new chunk of data, new next thousand, you know, next thousand lines. And
Hmm.
now we have out of the box on the UI, like in Angular and in MVC, we have those basically components that do pagination like out of the box. But behind the scene, it's we need to get next chunk of the data with specific SQL statement. And I don't remember what its SQL statement addition to the SQL is. If you're using, if it could be difficult if you're using storage procedure. So we literally need to pass page number in the storage procedure as a parameter if you're using storage procedure.
Okay. Okay. So, coming to Angular, like, what is two-way data binding in Angular?
No, mostly it's a two-way beta binding. So in general, it's like UI and object behind of it, and in those like banana in the box, its data is exchanging between UI and object, a class in the component.
Okay. So, how do you implement HTTP interceptors for authentication in Angular?
Ooh. HTTP interceptor for security.
In Angular?
Yeah. Let me think. You know, let me tell you that I did it long time ago. I just don't remember how I did it. It's like a kind of not common task. I saw it
Mhm.
done even I did. Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. So you worked on JavaScript or jQuery as well, right? Since you worked on MVC, it is more often like it completely depend on jQuery from MVC. So you have worked on it, right?
Yes, I did.
So what is cross-site scripting in JavaScript or jQuery, and how do you get it handled to prevent cross-site scripting?
I think we have like also we have some kind of a token that basically there is like even .NET and MVC providing us. So basically, we need to upgrade our to our latest version .NET, and we have like a command that insert the token in the HTML, which is like a big number. And every time the intruder try to substitute the page with malicious code, usually they don't know the generated code. So this is like typical. Again, don't
Okay,
remember syntax, but if you open like MVC application, it will be like everywhere in every page. Yeah, there is like a cross-site
got it.
defense.
Yeah, yeah. So did you work on microservices?
Yes.
So what is the difference between microservice and monolithic, and why do we need to choose microservice?
Well, idea is that we run it each microservice like in separate like black box in some kind of like cloud environment like in Azure. But here will be like a data exchange question, so they either connect to the same database or use some, HTTP connection, that kind of stuff. But idea to run it in small black boxes, which will be using less memory, and if they're not used, it's basically less money used.
Okay. So coming to this DevOps, like what pipeline that you guys used in your projects?
DevOps pipeline. Could you explain me a little bit more? Is it like
It's
development
kind of
versus production?
CI/CD pipeline that you guys are used, right? Like what pipeline that you guys used to commit your changes into the next environment, or how is the process, the development process? Like once you write the code, like what you will do the next step.
Well, usually right now people use GitHub under Azure. So I think
Hmm.
Microsoft bought it, or I mean it's free, so Microsoft acquired it. So yeah, basically we push our changes to. So let's say I have developer. Everybody have. It's a whole branching strategy, but let's say we everybody develop branch. So I fork my branch with it with some specific enhancement, let's say enhancement XYZ.
Hmm.
I push code in it, then create pull request, and somebody approve it or it's self-approved in code going into develop, and then usually CI/CD, usually code getting automatically compiled in the server and deployed into development production. And usually we can see, all kind of checks over there. So there are like code quality checks usually, you know, that kind of stuff. And
Okay, so have you?
next environment should be already manual process.
Mhm. So have you ever worked on any scans in between, like while you're running your code into the next environment? So we have some hard gates, right? Like whether the code is malicious or any passwords are there or anything that need to be validated in the code. Like what kind of tools are the checks that we have in the pipeline?
It's really depends to organizations. Like for like there is a Coverity scan, I think Wells Fargo back in the days used checkmarks, scan, all kind of SonarQube for quality, for test coverage. There are many of them. They could be nightmarish for developer, especially if it's a big project. Yeah, and
Okay.
usually if they break, they usually give some kind of report. They give lines of code that they don't like. They give vulnerabilities that they don't like. Often they are very ambiguous, so often you need to dig what happened.
Okay. So in an Angular application, Angular app unexpectedly calling same API multiple times. So how do you debug that?
Yes, and I saw it happens. So sometimes it's calling like user push the button and it's like executed 5 times. How I debug it? Well, I debug it basically as usual. So I try to reproduce it on my local computer. So like in debugging environment. You know what? Even in production, we can by going developers tools and debug it on the browser. So and see the if we have mapping, and I usually always most of the team require JavaScript mapping, right? So we can see TypeScript actually in the even in the browser. It doesn't matter if it's JavaScript, and over there we try to see why it's calling several times, like calling some service several times. Right now, on the
Okay.
top of my head, I don't have example how it's multiple calls happen, but yeah, bottom line
Not an
developer
issue.
tools. Or if you're
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
able to reproduce locally, we use our Visual Studio Code, and over there a little bit better debugging capabilities.
Okay. Okay. So can you tell me, like, what is the typical bug that you handled in your recent times in the production issue, or kind of like how did you get it fixed?
Well, typical bug, pretty much for everybody, it's null reference exception. So something is some data got returned like empty.
Hmm.
Yeah, and again, could be multiple reasons why it's returned empty. It's like it could be whatever. Could be no data in the database. Could be connection broken. Could be just some like problems in the code. But yeah, basically
Hmm.
I will need to reproduce it and try to debug.
Hmm.
Again, maybe initial debug will be on the developers tools and even in production. But after that, let's say it's calling some service which call API, then I will jump into the API and debug it. And usually it's usual fix. It's to put some kind of check if function return null, do
Hmm.
something else, or show error, hey, there is no data, or go to some other function that, hey, we need to do something else, and pop it up. Usually it's good to pop it up to the customer. I mean, from some
Hmm.
error happened, and log this error, or something like, hey, this is not available, do something else.
Got it. So what are the authentication and authorization mechanisms that you used in Wells Fargo applications?
The last one, it was tokenization, JWT token.
It is
It's
for
for
API, not for the application, right? So,
But yeah, in application, user have to input the password and basically API checking it, right?
it is like an application you have developed, but that shouldn't be allowed for everyone, right? Like that should be restricted to specific users. So if I'm opening a URL and I'm hitting enter in the browser, so that shouldn't be open for everyone. So how do you authenticate me and how do you authorize me? Like what are the parts of that application that I can access? Like what mechanism that you guys used in your
So
application?
yeah, first is authentication. We've just basically checking, let's say we checking the password. But after that, we're checking the write. If user even allowed to open this part of the application, there are like in Angular there are those routing guards, and even behind the scene could be on every level in could be in UI and Angular, but usually that kind of stuff done on the server in the API in the backend. Usually we check if it's and again in .NET we have those attributes authorize, authenticate, and it's usually role based. We should never use like individual authorization rules. It's usually role based, like salespeople access only sale information, some vendors have some other information.
Got it. Kind of last one, like I faced this in recent times. Like I'm done with my production deployment. I mean, I'm done with my code changes, and I got all the CR approvals, and I did went to the CR window, and I have deployed my changes. So once deployment is completed, the application is up and running, but it is working only for read operations, but it is not working for write and write the data into the database. Like what might be the issue? Like how do you debug it?
Well, I already tell you like kind of overall approach how I debug it. So basically, I will try to debug write pipeline. So I want to see. It's usually for writing. It will be some kind of call to the server, to the API. And I mean, even in UI, I can see error like this API is not available, for example. This particular API method could be not available. Again, if
No, I mean to say like the API is working fine. That is why the app is up and I'm able to see the data. Like I'm
yeah,
able to
read is
retrieve the
open.
data, but I'm not able to update. I'm not able to update. I'm not able to insert. So the
Okay,
write operations
I
are
will
not
I
working.
will tell you the thing. I remember last time actually after .NET upgrade, something like .NET upgrade caused everything to go to read only. So application was kind of working, but if user clicks save button, it's causing error. I don't remember how I fixed it. But again, I debugged it, and again, because at .NET it was on backend. So something with like general connection was or like connection driver. Okay. Like I have to change basically connection string to allow
Got it.
writing. Could be a variety of reasons, but yeah, in this case I debugging on the backend. We'll try to reproduce it, but that error was easily reproducible. I upgraded it, and even on my local computer it was not writing into the database. So
Okay. Okay. And I think I'm good. Like if you have
yeah,
anything.
no, let me turn on the camera. Just I don't know, is it turning on now? Camera is not working now. Oh, it does. Okay, it does working. I mean, I have like I understand that maybe like a few rounds of interview, but I have like, I mean, obviously if you will choose me. But my general question, how is your team working? Where are you guys located? I'm located in Chandler, by the way. I'm saying it because the recruiter mentioned Rose Garden. I just want to say Rose Garden is quite far from me. So I'm near Chandler location, Chandler, Arizona. So yeah, general question. What is your team? Where it's located? Kind of how is your work and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Unfortunately, we don't have Rajiv here, the manager.
Oh, I see.
He's the one who's in Arizona, and I don't actually know if he was wanting to have you in the same facility with him. I know back in the day, Wells Fargo definitely had a presence in Chandler, but with the location strategy changes, I don't know now. I'm in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, and size. Where are you in India, Si?
I'm in Arizona. It's Chandler, Arizona, and
I'm from Andhra Pradesh in India. I'm working from India.
so sad. Yeah.
So Sergey, that's the thing with our team is we're globally distributed, and there's sort of two teams, right? Like Sai's on what we call the optimization team that are doing. They've been doing more of the rewrites, and I'm in the U.S. team, which actually runs with a Kanban board instead of Sprint, and we've been more keeping the lights on, doing enhancements and day-to-day kind of stuff. But we've gotten where we're working a little more closely together between the two teams, and to be honest with you, I haven't heard from Rajiv if he has an exact project in mind for you. We have a backlog. We have plenty of work to be done, and we're also going through data center migrations, which is forcing rewrites of basically every application. So there's a lot to be done. But yes, as far as your specific question as to where you'd be expected to go, we would have to.
And Rajiv is located where? Is he in Arizona?
Do you happen to know? He's in Arizona, yeah, but I don't know the name of the location. If when they mentioned Rose Garden, if that was him.
Not big deal. Yeah, I will. Yeah, if I will go to next round, I will definitely ask. Not big of a deal again. It's not.
We do a 3-day in office thing, so three out of 5. And one thing I want to let you know, we will do it next round, and you're a strong candidate. So what we would be wanting to do in the next round is just a little coding exercise.
Yeah.
So you would need to make sure on your laptop that you can share with us. You'd need to have your editor of choice, and need to turn off AI assistance so it's actually it's not auto completing for you. And be able to build and run. It'll just be a console app.
I don't even know how to do it in Visual Studio. Like when you mentioned, when you type, like it's actually like right away you can click tab and then help you to write the code. I will look how to turn it off. It's interesting. Actually, I mean, you might have to search. That's the reason I mentioned it. Is I was actually doing a little thing the other day to validate the exercise we had written, and I was like, oh no, it's just writing it for me. Like for loop. I mean, it's helpful sometimes. Like for loop, you just start to type and it's like give you. And I actually got burned with it. Like once on interviews, they told me like you can use everything, like kind of like a real life example. And I said like, hey, could I use that GitHub Copilot? And say, yeah, of course. And it was some simple like asynchronous application, and I'm like type, hey, write me asynchronous call. It was like some number game, and it just read me the code. I'm like, hey, listen, here's a copy paste. And after that, recruiter told me they wasn't happy with that, but that's exactly what happened with me. Is Copilot's turned on, and I didn't ask Copilot to do it, but just while you're typing, it sees the class name. It's like, oh, I know what you're trying to do, and it just auto completes the whole darn thing. So they wasn't able to back it up because they like allow me everything. Sorry, I'm actually gonna have to go. I've got back-to-back meetings today. It was great talking to you. Me too, because I have to like run away somewhere right now. But thank you so much for your interview, and thank you for question. And you have a good day, everybody. Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes.